we, you know what I'm saying, got some kind of power in this country. But, so they saw that COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program set up by J. Edgar Hoover, saw that the Panthers were doing a...
Scared? No. Well, you should be.
And they start infiltrating. Now, why would they do this to a young black organization? And why would you not think they would do it to me? They infiltrated them, meaning they got people to say that they were Panthers, they joined the Panthers, and they would start the ruckus. I said, let's go shoot up the botanical gardens and do it in the name of the Panthers, but it's a cop. You know what I'm saying? And everybody thinks it's the Panthers because he's dressed like a Panther. You know what I'm saying? And he's screaming the Panthers, but he's a cop.
This is the oppressed, this is the oppressors, this is the exploited, this is the exploiter. And these people in this class have divided themselves.
Tupac Shakur is a child of the 60s. Tupac Shakur, born out of the spirit of the revolution of the 60s. Tupac Shakur.
He was in a movement, and we never spent time together because he was always speaking and going to colleges and everything.
And why is it that they want to do that? I mean, if this is truly a melting pot in the country where we care about it, and Lady Liberty got a hand like this, she really loves us, then we really need to be like that. And it needs to be the black kids. If there's a white person who got money, then he need to help him. He need to help black kids.
Scared? No. Well, you should be.
Peace, family. We are back again. And today, we will be building on my favorite film of the year, right? It top centers, man. And I think Weapons actually top centers for me as far as a horror film. I don't think that Weapons was a better written film than Sinners. However, I do think it was a better film for me. You know what I'm saying? But, this matter of opinion. They were both great films. And, this film, in my opinion, tops both. So this is the decoding of One Battle After Another, right? The best film of the year. We're not going to waste a lot of time. We're going to get right into it. This film is centered around two lovers and a leftist revolutionary group called the French 75. Perfidia is from a long line of revolutionary freedom fighters, and she's dedicated to the movement. Her lover is also dedicated to the movement, and this is what brings them together. Right now, Perfidia is the character that is played by Tiana Taylor. Right, and I must say that Tiana Taylor, I was kind of weary of her going into this film because, even though she did great independent films that I seen, this was her first, being sharing the stage, or sharing the screen with my favorite actor of all time, which is DiCaprio, and also working with PTA and, just. I knew this was going to be a challenge, and I wanted, she had about 25, 30 minutes of screen time, but, she dominated this role as Perfidia, right? She dominated, and I got nothing but respect for Tiana Taylor, and I'm also a fan of her latest album, so, go get that. But anyway, back to the film. So this couple robs banks together, right? They take from the rich. They help break out of oppressed groups the ICE, what's going on with ICE. They are activists and revolutionary freedom fighters, right? And this is what keeps Perfidia, and Bob together, right? This is their relationship. Now, what we soon learn in the film is that Perfidia is secretly tied into a situationship with an agent, right? Living up to the name Perfidia. Right, the name Perfidia in Spanish means disloyal or betrayal. Right, so Perfidia is being disloyal to the French 75 and also to her lover. Right, so the names have a meaning, obviously. Right, Detective Lockjaw is a racist detective that has a secret sexual fetish for black women, like Perfidia. And he blackmails Perfidia to be his sexual fantasy. And he won't arrest her, right? He won't arrest her. That's the blackmail. He catches her trying to put a bomb somewhere in a building, and he blackmails her. He's always looking at her with his binoculars, and he's what the screen is showing you is that he's fetishizing her. Sorry, let me get that out right. She's a fetish for him, right? Because he's this big kind of racist Nazi type of. However, he's conflicted because deep down he has a sexual fetish over black women, right? But it's something that he does in the dark, right? Something that he likes to do in the dark. He has a fetish where he says he loves black women, but he can only do this. This is his dark secret, right? So him loving black women is his dark secret, because on the outside he has to to fit in with the society that he wants to fit in with. He has to carry himself as this racist white man, right? So he blackmails Perfidia to be his sexual fantasy, right? And with that, he has a blackmail over her. She has sex with him in these hotels, or they do sexual things together, and he allows her to go on about with her operation with the French 75, right? Now, again, deep down, he is falling in love with her. However, he could never really love her publicly, right? Because of his need to be accepted by the racist society, right? The racist society. He wants to fit in, right? And then many, this is like, some people say men that overly hate the gays, right? And then sometimes they got like a dark secret in their closet, right? And they conflicted, right? It's the same thing. It's like racist men, racist white men. I hate this, I hate that, but deep down, on the inside, they loving the sisters, they loving them ebony queens, the Spanish Boricuas. You know what I'm saying? But they can't in the public eye. They can't do that, and it's a weird thing. But anyway, back to the point now. So Perfidia and the detective Lockjaw, right? That's his name, played by Sean Penn, and Sean Penn kills this role. This is Sean Penn's best role, in my opinion, since he played David Kleinfeld in Carlito's Way, right? He just, he's one of the illest villains that you will see, because you hate him, but he's killing this role, and that's a sign of a great great actress, right? They make you hate the character that they're even playing, right? So again, she gets to continue to do this as long as you know, he allows her to go on with these missions to put in work with the freedom fighters, as long as she is his sex slave, his sex toy, right? Now, eventually, Perfidia ends up pregnant, right, by her true lover Bob, which is played by Leonardo DiCaprio. So we think. I caught on to it early though, right? This is spoiler heavy, so I'm gonna put that in the context. So if you ain't in the bio, if you ain't seen the film, for one, you need to go see it. For two, you know what I'm saying, you might wanna, put a pin in and come back to this later, right? But deep down, you see in the screen as she's rubbing her pregnant belly, watching DiCaprio, configure a bomb, right? She's rubbing her belly and staring at him as if she knows that this is a possibility that the child may not even be his, right? So that's what that film is showing, as it locks in on her staring at him, right? And then she feels so bad for him, she kind of goes and kisses him. And she Perfidia uses her sexual prowess over DiCaprio's character also, right? Because what we find out is he's not really fully dedicated to the movement either. However, he wants to be accepted by a group, right? So he wants to be accepted by Perfidia in the group. However, he never truly bought in. But since his old lady bought in, which is Perfidia, right, he's doing what she wants him to do, right? That's another concept that you have to keep in mind. He's doing what she wants him to do, right? And the grandma is wise, and she calls this out later on in the film. Once the child is born, right? She says, "My daughter comes from a long line of revolutionaries, and she's talking to DiCaprio, you look like, you're not fully into this thing," right? Which showed that he was really only doing this, for the most part, was a little fad, maybe a little college thing. A lot of the, hippies grew up to be conservatives, or you know what I mean. A lot of liberals grow up to be conservative. They grew out of that revolutionary phase, as Tupac would say. We got to do all this while we 20, because niggas get 30s and 40s, and then they throw out the movement, right? So don't let me do it while I'm young. However, Perfidia is fully dedicated to this movement. This is what she knows. This is all she knows, right? In the grandma's wisdom, seen this, and she seen that on him, and she was looking like, I don't know, which that was an indication to show us that, or to let the audience know that his whole infatuation with her is similar to Lockjaw, right? It's not such a fetish. He does love her. However, you know, she's the love language. Every scene they are together, where he grabbing her butt, he's kissing her. I know that you say these are things that lovers do. However, she's weaponizing it. She's weaponizing it, right? Because this is what keeps him going, to put in work and helps her, you know, carry on her journey. And in Perfidia is about perfidia, right? That's in the name. It's betrayal, right? So with a child on the way, Bob begins to shift into father mode and is growing out of the revolutionary mindset that he was truly never bought into anyway. It was a fad, right? It's a fast change, right? But he is noticing that even with a child, Perfidia still seems to be in full revolutionary mode, right? As you see the scene, the legendary scene, believe me, it's going to be a legendary scene. It's already a legendary photo where she's letting the chopper rip, right? She letting the chopper rip, right? And he's watching her. He's in father mode, right? And she's letting the chopper rip, right? Now, this scene to me is vital because, you know, the baby is inside the womb as the chopper is ripping, right? And many of the revolutionary movements, you know, the babies will be carrying traits, obviously, from the parent, but, you know, it's like marking the child with a rebellious spirit, right? As you know, Tupac mom was fighting the case while he was in prison, while she was pregnant with him, right? He was fighting the case while she was fighting the case while she was pregnant with Pac, right? She was going through trauma and all this stuff. So this stuff is inside the child, you know, marking the child with rebellion, right? As Dr. Khaled would say. So I think that was really, really vital for PTA to put that in, right? So once their baby is born, Bob and Perfidia grow even more apart, right? As he expected her to transition into full-on mother mode, but Perfidia could never put anything first outside of the revolution and also outside of Perfidia, right? Her mom said she's a runner. She's a runner. Mama no, right? So with that said, as she no longer feels attractive and sexy and all this, you know, her and Bob grow further and further apart. DiCaprio's character grow further and further apart. DiCaprio still is infatuated with her. He wants to have a family with her and all that. However, you know, she doesn't feel sexy, so she can't weaponize her sexuality anymore. She's back to the movement. Back to the movement. And, you know, her abandoning the child, which she did, right, was actually, you know, not to say none of the children in the movement had great parents. However, you know, many of the children in the movement, even the '60s and the Panthers and all that, were abandoned children, right? That's why many of the children went on to, you know, get into the streets, right? Turn into hip hop and turn into the streets, right? So Perfidia abandoning her child because she put the movement first was actually more common than people may know. Some parents in the movement were so dedicated to the people that they forgot about their own people at home, right? So it's a clip of Tupac speaking on how Afeni Shakur was so dedicated to the movement that it kind of hurt their own relationship because he felt like she put the people before him. And this is what Perfidia did. You know, when she's so dedicated to the movement that she can't even start to be in mom mode because she's dedicated to the people. However, she's abandoning her own people at the house. She's abandoning her family, which is Bob and which is you know, Chase Infinity's character Willa, the baby. Right? So while robbing the bank with the group, the French 75, Perfidia shoots a cop, sending her now to go on the run, reminiscent of Asada Shakur, who transitioned last week. Right? Our great ancestor Asada Shakur transitioned last week as the film was coming out. Right? Ironically. And Asada Shakur allegedly was arrested for the death of a cop, right? But she was innocent. She was innocent though, and you know, the system beat her down. However, she was innocent and she was broken out of prison, right? And she fled. Keep that in mind for those that don't know. Now, police officers finally bring in Perfidia, right? And this scene, in my opinion, mirrors this photo of police officers gathered around and smiling amongst a dead Fred Hampton, right? As if they caught an animal in the wild. Like them wild men in the, what I'm saying, they be out there shoot a lion and just take a picture with them and all that. Like, this is how they did Fred Hampton, right? They infiltrated. They used a group. They used members to infiltrate Fred Hampton, and then they knew where he was at. And then when they went in, they didn't even wake him up. They just shot 150 times and killed him while he was asleep, right? And then as they bringing him out on the stretcher, they smiling, right? Well, when I see Perfidia in this scene, it's like a photo. It's like that photo where you see these cops smiling as they got Perfidia. Like, yeah, we got her, dog. You know what I mean? And they're smiling around her as if she's property, as if she was a wild animal. And you know what I mean? So I thought PTA using that was actually dope, right? I thought that was great. Use of history to put inside of a revolutionary film. Now, Detective Lockjaw secretly visits Perfidia and asks her to make a deal with the feds by giving up the names of many members of her French 75 organization, this will make him a hero to the department, right? And also help her walk away free and join the Witness Protection Program, right? He says, I'll put you up somewhere. It'll just be us, right? He wanted that. Okay, here we go again. If she makes this deal, he puts her up in this house, right? Which she does make the deal. He puts her up in this house, and he one of the only people that know where she is, right? So now he feels like, oh, now I could, and he does love her. He has the roses and everything, right? However, he can't love her publicly. Again, Lockjaw. Which again, lockjaw is, your jaw is locked, it's concealed, it's sealed, right? He loves her, but he has to love her silently. He has to love black women silently because he's afraid of being judged by his peers and who he wants to fit in with his racist society. In his business, he can get further by not being associated with groups that are non-white, right? So this is also what this is showing you. Now, as Perfidia, chose to make this deal, it makes him a hero, but it makes her a rat, right? So she falls from grace in the organization in her organization's eyes. Now she's seen as a rat forever in his organization's eyes, since he was able to bring down the French 75. Then, right, that now he rises, right? So you have those two dynamics going on. Now, Perfidia turning into a rat is not common either in the movement, right? As we see, Malcolm X was infiltrated, right? Malcolm X was infiltrated. Marcus Garvey was infiltrated, and Fred Hampton was infiltrated, right? And I could go on. Infiltration in COINTELPRO with J. Edgar Hoover, right? Infiltrating black movements, right? Now, after giving up members of her crew, Perfidia breaks out of the Witness Protection Program and flees the country to Mexico. And that's the end of Tiana Taylor's scenes in the film, right? That's the whole first 30 minutes. Tiana Taylor she locked that shit down, right? But she didn't. I feel like I was hoping I was gonna see her again throughout the film, but I never got to see her again. But we did get to hear her voice, you know what I'm saying? But she carried that first half of that film, with the screen time. But I just, I want to see even more of Regina Hall, right? But again, now her fleeing to Mexico because, Lockjaw think that he has her. Yeah, I'm gonna have her locked away in this house, and I'm gonna always be able to love her silently and all this. But When he gets there, you know, she's gone. She's a runner, like her mom said. She's gone. She didn't love Lockjaw. She just used Lockjaw. She ran from Bob. She never liked. She really didn't care for Bob. Perfidia is about Perfidia, right? At this time, she's so dedicated to the movement. Now again, her fleeing Mexico is again similar to Asada Shakur, except she didn't shoot the cop. Remember, she's innocent, right? And it's evidence to prove she was innocent. However, even though she lost the case, you know what I mean? We know what the time it was. It was the 60s, right? She was broken out of prison, though, right? And fled to Cuba. So as Perfidia fled to Mexico, Sada fled to Cuba, where Castro would take her in and she would be able to stay there until she did transition last week. So now with Perfidia on the run and now looked at as a rat because, again, by her giving up these names, you know, the French 75 were able to take a blow, right? They were able to take a big blow to the crew. They got indicted. A lot of them got indicted. So Bob is forced to raise Willa alone now and go off the radar to escape, right? The consequences that may come from being associated with Perfidia, a rat, right? He relocates to a sanctuary city in California. A sanctuary city is where undocumented immigrants can live in somewhat peace in America, right? So, as the indictment is coming down, the feds coming down, they getting everybody. Bob gotta go. Bob and the baby gotta go, and they bounce, right? They step away from the movement. However, the movement takes care of its people. Always takes care of his people, right? And that's why for those, used to be like, man, Tupac went from Harlem, the Bronx, Baltimore to California, Northern California, and all this. And these are places that the Panthers had presence at, because when anybody fell on hard times, the Panthers were is the village thing. They all were supposed to take care of each other, right? So that's how Tupac ends up in all these places. As Afeni falls on hard times, people in the movement are taking in their children. This is what the movement was about, right? So even though they bouncing, you see in Regina Hall's character and all them saying that they love Bob and they always gonna help take care of Willa. They got these little devices, right? That make sure that if it goes off, then you know that the feds is close by 'em, right? And him and Willa keep these little things. They keep trackers together to always know where each other at. And the first 75 always knows where. They're also always keeping an eye on Willa and Bob, right? Despite Perfidia being a rat, right? Excuse me. So 16 years later, Willa has grown up. She's now 16, and all she knows is her simple life, right, with her father and her new friends, right? The few that she does have. She also is close with her karate teacher, Sensei, who is also a freedom fighter. He's a modern freedom fighter, right? Because it's 16 years later, who helps undocumented immigrants stay safe in this sanctuary town. He almost like he got all this on isolation, right? And he's the man. He's Sensei, right? He also idolizes Willa's father for once being part of the legendary group, the French 75, right? So that's Sensei. Sensei is, he's teaching Willa karate and all that and how to survive, because they have been installing survival skills in Willa since she was a kid, because they never know, for years, Willa and Bob lived in fear. Willa didn't understand the fear, but Bob lived with great fear. And he got into drugs and drinking and all this. And I don't know if this was the same, because many of the Panthers, after the Panthers was over, they got out. The organization got J. Edgar Hoover destroyed the organization in fighting between this chapter and that chapter. Many of them got on drugs, many of them got on alcohol and had identity crisis, while many of them also became political prisoners, right? Still locked up to this day. So Bob is now fully removed from the mindset of a revolutionary. As we say, he was never fully bought into it anyway. He loved Perfidia, right? He has actually begun to become more conservative in his ways 16 years later. And this would indicate many revolutionaries who later grow up to become more conservative, forgetting how they once were when they were younger, right? You lose your fight. So we seeing, as Willa brings her friends over. She has friends of all different races and all this, and we seeing that. Wow, man. You know, Bob has 16 years later. Bob has somewhat turned conservative. The people he used to bang on, right? This is who he become. So you know, I think that was a good indication too, right? Because that does happen. Now, after taking down the French State Nevada, Detective Lockjaw continues to move up in the ranks by continuing to put in work on minorities, right? Eventually leading him to get a special call from a secret society elite group, right? Um, This secret society elite group wants Detective Lockjaw to become a member of their secret society. And this is what Detective Lockjaw has always wanted. An opportunity to become a member of a group, right? Specifically, he wanted to always be accepted by the white nationalist secret society group called the Christmas Adventurer Club, right? And PTA was so genius for putting that Christmas Adventurer Club. Uh, because you know Christmas Adventurer Club, that's the name of this secret society group, right? And you think Christmas, you thinking Christian holiday and snow, white, all white. You know what I'm saying? So you know this is what they're saying. They're not gonna say Christian nationalists, but this is what they would indicate, right? What they're called the Christmas Adventurer Club. It's a secret society. Um, of rich yuppies. These ain't the Klan. This ain't the Nazis. These ain't they are Nazis, but this ain't the skinhead. These are uh golf niggas. They look like they play golf. You know what I'm saying? They looking like they play golf, and I thought that was genius too because it's showing you like, uh, you know, Jerry Jones type of cats. These is the ones you really got to worry about because they have power, right? Secret society. But anyway, uh, the rules to be inside of this club is you have to be a true white supremacist that could never have dealt with another race, not even sexually. Detective Lockjaw takes this secret society oath, knowing that it's a possibility that he may have a mixed child out in the world, which is Willa, right? And he now has to eliminate her before this group finds out that he's lied to them because they invited him for putting in the work on minorities and all this. You know, they see him as a race soldier, right? However, you know, they asking him, have you done anything where you ever dealt with any black women and all this? And he's like, he got to say no. However, you know, he starts to realize deep down, I may have had that child out there with Perfidia, and I got to find where that child is and eliminate it, right? Eliminate the threat, right? To him and her. Knowing that it's a possibility that Willa is his secret black mixed child, Detective Lockjaw finds out where her and Bob are located and sends in a squad to the sanctuary town, acting as if this is an ICE roundup, right, of immigrants, right, when really he's using it as an excuse to take out his own child before the Christmas Adventurer Club finds out because, you know, this is a serious group. This is a serious group. They got power and they like the mob. You know, and if once you win, you win. But if they find out you lied, you know, they eliminate you, right? So now Lockjaw got himself into some shit, right? So uh, Bob has always prepared Willa for something big since she was a child. Not letting her have a phone, all that, you know what I mean? She never understood it fully, but because he never really went into detail. He just told her that her mom was a hero. She never knew her mom was a rat, right? And he told her that you know, he lied to her basically, right? So, anyway, on this specific day, as Lockjaw is coming in, you know, he allows her to go with her friends to a school dance. He allows Willa to go to her school dance, right, with her friends. Unaware that Detective Lockjaw is heading into a city, uh, right, 16 years later, who he ran from the first time 16 years later has finally caught up. And that's the theme in this movie too. Your past catching up to you, right? Your past catching up to you. So, you know, so Lockjaw's coming into this town. But Will and Bob have always kept these devices that I told you about that allow them to know where each other are, right? They know where each other are at all times. And it just so happens this day Willa didn't want to even take it, right? But Bob, his parental instinct is, yo, take it, just take it, and she takes it, right? Now, while at the school dance in the bathroom, Willie is approached by Deandra, a member of the French 75, right, played by Regina Hall. Regina Hall killed this role. However, I would have liked to see Regina Hall have a little more screen time because, I mean, Regina Hall was killing this role, man. She was really killing this role. I'm serious, right? Uh, every scene that she was in, she made use of her time, right? So Willie is approached by Deandra in a bathroom, right? Deandra was part of the French 75 who always promised to help her and Bob out if the devices went off. And she rescues Willie from the dance before Detective Lockjaw and his troops invade the dance and take her away. As they do come into the school dance and shake down the school dance and, try to find out where Willie is, right? Which they eventually do, right? They get a track on that cell phone that her father asked her not to have, right? Kids, right? So Deandra rescuing Willa is a common thing in the movement, as I said earlier, where they all take care of each other's children. For example, when Tupac's mother fell on hard times, as I said earlier, battling crack addiction and could no longer take care of young Tupac, she was told to put him on a Greyhound bus with nothing but one bag of clothing and chicken wings, right? To go live with the legendary Black Panther Geronimo Pratt's wife, Ashanti, in California. And that's how you got from Baltimore Tupac to California Tupac, right? Moving with the movement, right? Movement was big in those cities. As Detective Lockjaw has now raided the home of Bob and Willa, right? Bob just barely escapes. Bob searches for help from a current freedom fighter and friend who also loves his daughter and wants to help Bob find her. This is Sensei. As I said, Sensei sees it as an honor to help Bob find his daughter that he loves also, and he also worked with the French 75 member, right? The legendary to him. Now, while the Lockjaw is in pursuit of trying to cover up his past, this child with a black woman, which is Willa, the white racist secret society finds out about his secret fling with a black woman, right? And they catch on to what he's trying to cover up. So they start putting it together and say, man, we found out that this is a powerful group. So they had the money to find out about this hidden child that he had, right? Now they see why he's out there in this sanctuary town trying to cover it up, right? And they bring in, a killer named Tim, but Tim don't look like a killer. Tim look like a clean cut, like he should be out there playing golf, right? He look like a golfer. But this is what the film is showing you. This is what your real white supremacy looks like, right? That old money. It ain't the nigga in the trailer park with the goddamn 2 teeth missing, right? It's these people that control societies with their power, with their money, right? So again, that's the Christmas Adventurer Club, the white Christian nationalists, right? This is what this group represents, right? They look like regular golf club alumni, rich college donors, or bosses at a corporation, this is why PTA did this. This is why racism is so hard to stop, because it is a secret society amongst itself. It's a secret society amongst itself, and when they go inside the Christmas Adventurers house, you meet the lady, right? You meet the grandma and grandma. Hey, how you doing, sweetheart? Make some pies. And then he said, go downstairs, and it's deep, deep underground, right? It's hidden. That's a metaphor for how deep racism is hidden in the society, right? It's very, very hidden. The way when you get to the bottom, what do you see? You see a round table full of rich elites, right? Rich elites, and pushing race-based politics, right? That affect the society. And Lockjaw has made a mistake because Lockjaw is, now being found out that he ain't true race. He ain't a true race. You might not be as true racist as you thought. So now he can't. The group that he always wanted to be part of, now they have found out his hidden secret, which was perfidia. Because remember, to Lockjaw, perfidia was always a secret, right? He's always his dark secret, right? Because he wanted to be accepted by the society, and it just so happens now their child becomes another dark secret that's haunted him. See what I'm saying? as Lockjaw is haunting Bob and Willa, their past. So this is a theme with the past catching up to you, right? Running from your past in fear. Lockjaw is in fear that they're going to find out. Bob is in fear that Lockjaw is going to catch him. And you see what I'm saying? So this is the theme of the film, of fear from the past, right? Now, for Bob to save his daughter and overcome Detective Lockjaw's devilish plan, Bob must also almost channel his past times with the French 75 and his once lover Perfidia, right? To help save his child, to help save their child, actually. Uh, and you know that even though we know this child is not biologically his, it never tells us if Bob actually knew this. I don't know if Bob knew. No, nobody knows if Bob knows. So it's one of the things that they kind of left it up to you to find out, you know. But Willa does find out, right? Now, it's a scene also where you start to see Bob dressing as Perfidia used to dress, and I would say that this is him. And also at the phone booth, like she was at the phone booth, he's channeling his inner French 75 again, his past, and also Perfidia, right? His past. So this is what this, in my opinion, represents, right? This, which is also great for PTA. Now, as ICE is invading this city, we are seeing inhuman behavior by many of the ICE agents, right? And we get to see why freedom fighters fight for human rights in the first place. And I thought that was a great thing in this film to show this. All of the people that ICE is shaking down, they not criminals. They some regular working people. These children, you know what I'm saying? And we seeing as ICE is going into Chicago now and other places, they going into even black communities, and black communities seeing the aggression that some of these ICE detectives are coming with, right? Zip tying little kids, throwing them on the grass, and in the public eye with no clothes on, making. I seen one where they made an Asian man lick water off the ground, just totally abusing power. And this is ICE is a branch of white supremacy, right? It's really just about white man's fear of the country browning. They don't want the country to brown, and this is why Elon Musk and all them is always obsessed with talking about genes and birth rate charts and all this, and they're worried about it in Europe and worried about this because they are in fear, as Dr. Francis Cress Wilson would say, of the annihilation. As in studies would say that America is browning in the next 10 years. If they don't get ahead of it, the whites will not be the majority for the first time in America in a long time, right? Because in the 1700s, 1800s, it was times where parts of the 13 colonies were mostly black, right? And that's part of why they started bringing in more Western Europeans in to take those numbers out, right? It was strategic then too. So this is something where you're seeing in the film where, just like the Christmas Adventurer Club, ICE showing you ICE as a branch of white supremacy that is coming down to shake, and we just seeing these tactics, right? We also see where they starting riots, right? We seen a peaceful protest, and we seen one of the agents, right? They did this to black revolutionaries all the time when they had these protests. Dress up as an agent, dress up as a protester, and throw something at the cops or whatever, and then just kick off the riot, right? So that was also a beautiful thing in the film where it shows like this is the tactics that they will stoop to. Now, the film highlighted Bob and fear and paranoia amongst all of this chaos and madness. Sensei is calm and collective. This is his norm as a freedom fighter, right? And helping illegal immigrants, etc. Survivor ICE phrase weekly. This is a norm for him. That's why you see Sensei just chilling, drinking beers. You know what I'm saying? He's telling Bob, calm down, relax. 'Cause this is what he do. This is how we live. Every day we living in fear. Again, this is a theme in the film. Lockjaw is in fear of his past catching up to him. He's in fear of people finding out that he does love black women. He does love Perfidia. He does have a black child, right? Perfidia is in fear of being caught by the police, of her Fringe 75 group finding out that she is a rat. Right? Bob is in fear that Lockjaw in the past will catch up to him. That's why he's on drinking and smoking every day. He's paranoid. He's in fear. Right? He wants to protect his daughter. So this film deals with fear, right? And this is what it shows you what immigrants are going through when ICE is coming in these sanctuary towns, living in fear. Right, so that's another element, right? So DeAndre takes Willa to a hideout where members of a revolutionary group with ties to the French 75. It didn't say that they were French 75, but they definitely had ties to the French 75 because they, even though they call her mom a rat, they accepted Willa in, right? By, granted by DeAndre, who they respected, right? Now, they begin to train Willa, right, and catch her up on the truths about her mother. Willa finds out that her mother was not a hero. She was actually a rat, right? And DeAndre cries as she watches Willa. I love Regina Hall in this film, right? Just even the emotion on the screen. So DeAndre cries as she watches Willa unload the chopper in the same place her mother stood with her in the stomach 16 years earlier, letting off the chopper. It's a full circle moment in the film. It's beautiful. Again, this is the film of the year. Right, Emma Stone got some dropping October 31st, but this should be film of the year as of now, right? Now, Willa is naturally a revolutionary, just like her mother, right? It's natural. It's natural, right? Her mom was, while she was letting that chopper rip, the baby was, you know what I'm saying? The baby was catching, catching everything to the mom. And she got that spirit in her. It's natural. So she watching Willa like, yo, she a natural. It's in her. You know what I'm saying? And she's seeing like that was my friend. That's my friend's child. And it's just a great moment in the film, right? So although Willa never knew her mom, she was also like Tupac, a natural fighter like her mother. The spirit of a revolutionary comes in the womb, right? And this is what this legendary scene between the two, mom and daughter, symbolize, right? That's what it symbolizes. Now, eventually Detective Lockjaw finds where Willa is. He finds the hideout, right? And Regina Hall, all them get hauled off or whatever. And he forces her to take a DNA test, confirming that she is his child. And he now decides to kill her before the secret society finds out. Again, fear that he has a black child. He also calls her a mutt, spewing hate towards his own daughter because her mother was always just a sexual fetish to him, but could never override his need to be accepted by the racist society. Right, so as he's giving her this test, he's calling her a mutt, and she's in, and he's hurling these things at her. And you know what it is he's trying to convince himself that I do hate black people. I hate you. You a mutt, But he says I did love your mom. Right, so he's conflicted. This is Lockjaw. He wants to be accepted by the racist society so bad, right? So Lockjaw gives Willa to a hitman named Avanti, who is a Native American, asking him to eliminate her. But the hitman refuses to harm kids. Plus, he's fed up with being used by white nationalists, right? He doesn't like that he's being used, right? So instead of leaving Willa to be killed by secret military white nationalists, because the Native American guy says, no, I ain't gonna do it, but I'll take her to these this white military group, and let them do it. I'll drop off. So, but when he gets there, he changes his mind. Avanti ends up getting into a shootout with the military, with the Nazi military soldiers, right? And ends up dying in the process, right? To sacrifice for her, sacrifice for the future. That's what the revolutionary is about, sacrificing for the future, and that's what the whole film is about, right? That's what a freedom fighter does. We fight not for us, but for the children, for the next generation, right? Which is Willa. Willa represents the next generation. So, as he dies in the shootout, and everybody dies on the scene, Willa is now able to escape. She gets the keys out of his pocket, and she gets his gun, and she bounces. She hops in his car and bounces, right? While Detective Lockjaw feels like he's cleaned up the issue. He didn't know that the Christmas adventurers put a hit on him for lying, and Tim, the hitman, has caught up to him, right? And you see him aim to pump out the driver's seat, right? And he hits Lockjaw in the neck, right in the jaw actually. Hits Lockjaw in the jaw, lock his jaw up. You know what I'm saying? So you think Lockjaw is actually dead, right? But his past has caught up to him as he's looking in the rear view. His past catches up to him, and the hitman hits him, right? Lockjaw. And PTA was heavily inspired by the film Terminator 2, right? And I think that's a nod. I could be reaching, but that's a nod. Terminator had the pump, one hand with the pump, and we see Tim one hand with the pump out the window, hit Lockjaw, lock his jaw up, right? Excuse me. Now flying off the cliff. The hitman from the Christmas Adventure, which is Tim, is now chasing Willa down. He was told to eliminate Lockjaw and the child, right? So now he's chasing her, right? We still dealing with this thing of the past catching up to you, right? As they look in rear views, right, through cars on this beautiful car chase. When I was in the theater, it felt like I was on a roller coaster. That's the anxiety, and this is the best way to show you this film is dealing with anxiety. And what's a great way to make the audience feel anxiety? Put us on these hills, you know what I'm saying, in IMAX, and we just going down hills, and it's just beautiful because we feeling the anxiety as the characters feel. That's genius. PTA is a genius, and strategically, as he's not being able to. Tim is chasing down Willis, not being able to see her. Bob is actually now his device is going off. He's finally caught up to his baby girl, right? But he still ain't there yet, right? He's trying to catch her too. So, what Willa does is she comes across a hill. She parks the car, hops out, hides behind a little hill, I guess, or a little, I want to say like a little mound maybe, or a rock. I think it was a rock, and she gets behind, aims the gun at Tim. Tim's car runs right into it because it was a great strategic plan. And, he gets out the car wounded. She does the French 75 calling that her dad always told her. And he said if they respond to it, they're part of the movement. But since Tim didn't respond to it, she aired him out. You know what I'm saying? Bob finally catches up to her in the end, and he everything that he installed in his baby girl on how to survive, it worked all of these years. So this is a film of, we get to see, it's a daddy-daughter film also, right? It's a daddy-daughter film also, and we got to see, it's like Boys in the Hood, almost like when, Trey's father, Furious Styles, and he gave Trey all this knowledge for all these years, and then that's what led to Trey saying get out the car, and you see Furious with he got the stress balls, and he just hoping that everything that he gave him, the knowledge he gave him, he's able to carry it out without him being around. And this is what we seen. Now he can trust his daughter. His baby girl made it on her own. She had help from DeAndre, but she made it on her own. So, which was his fear. Like, I can't let you leave me. I can't let you leave like your mom did. So he's really, really guarding Willa real tight. But Willa showed him that she actually can have some independence with everything that he taught her. Right? She survived off everything that he taught her. Bob did a great job of raising his daughter, right? And now you get to see the dad and daughter hop in the same car, reunited again, and ride off into the sunset, right? Again, PTA shot this film perfectly. It's beautiful. Everything about this film is perfect in my opinion. And Sean Penn as a Detective Lockjaw is one of the greatest villains in modern day history. Mark my words, it will go down as a legendary role, and he will win an Oscar more than likely. Now, Detective Lockjaw survives the face shot. He just survived the shot. He survived the shot to the jaw, right? But he never knew who did it. He didn't know that that Tim. He's just hoping that I survived and I'm gonna be able to go back to the Christmas Adventurer Club and be accepted as one, right? He's hoping that he's cleaned everything out, right? So, Not knowing who shot him, he goes back to the Christmas Adventurer, hoping to finally Christmas Adventurer as part of himself, hoping to finally be accepted into the secret society of white supremacists. But they know that he lied, right? They know they did the knowledge on him, and they found out that he had a black child, and he went out there to the sanctuary town to try to cover it up and all this. They know about this. He don't know that they know, right? And his jaw is all locked up and shot up. He's all messed up, right? He lived up to the name Lockjaw. Right? It's a foreshadowing also, right? So it's Lockjaw for being so secret, keeping it concealed, but also now he literally got the lockjaw because he got shot to the face and the jaw. Now, he says that when they asked him how did he end up having a baby, he finally comes clean and says, yeah, I did have a baby, but I got the Perfidia was the one who sexually assaulted me, and that's how I had the kid. Right? This is how bad he wants to be accepted. This is how low he'll go. Right? This character is low. Right now, the Christmas Adventures allowed Detective Lockjaw to continue his lie, although they know he's lying. Right? Then they lure him. They give him his own keys to his own office, making him feel accepted finally by them. But they actually just locked him into a office. So this guy walks him in. Remember, these are presidential looking type of cats, but they dark dudes though, right? So let me show you to your room, man. And this is the specific room for you. And he's so proud. He's like, yeah, I'm finally accepted, right? I'm finally accepted. And they say, oh yeah, let me get the key. Oops, you locked in. Let me get the key, right? And after a while, he realizes that it's carbon monoxide inside the room, and he's poisoned to death, right? So Detective Lockjaw is dead, So in the final scene, Bob and Willa are at the table. Bob gives Willa a letter that her mother wrote for her. Willa decides to embrace her revolutionary spirit, just like her mother, and Bob embraces letting Willa go on her own journey and trusting her, right? He also seems to look like he's no longer stressing from the fear and abusing substances, right? They are both now at peace and free from running from their past, also free from living in great, great anxiety, right? So, this film is masterful and highlighted freedom fighters and revolutionaries that want to fight for the oppressed and fight for underprivileged, right? Fight for the poor who are being eaten up by the rich. The chaos and the lack of fear that they have to live, the fact that they live under great fear, but they still go against. They fight for what's right, right? So this is a great film. And also too for the people that some people feel like, oh, well, they shouldn't have been doing this. They didn't like I know it was not popular. Like Dr. Umar, he said something specifically as far as he didn't like the way that it was different colors within the revolutionary group. However, I can say I love Dr. Umar, but I respect Dr. Umar enough to say that respectfully, revolutionary freedom fighters came in all colors: male, female, young, old. You had the White Panthers, you had the Brown Berets, you had the American Indian Movement, you had the Young Lords. You had Fidel Castro linking up with Malcolm, Asada being taken in by Fidel. So freedom fighters are freedom fighters, and I actually really really love this film, right? Because it's also dealing with what we are dealing with in the times of today, right? Also, before I left, I wanted to say it's also a scene in the film where Bob is at home watching TV and he's watching the Battle of Algiers. It's an Italian film about a revolution over a corrupt regime in Italy, right? So, as we wrap this up, this is a true story of the hate you gave little infants. Fucks everybody. Right? That was a Tupac Thug's Life acronym. The hate you gave little infants fucks everybody. The children of revolutionaries sometimes end up growing up to either go against the revolution or become part of it due to the abandonment and neglect of revolutionaries who choose revolution over their children. Right? On that note, family, we had an hour, man. If you stayed this long, I hope you enjoyed the film, and I hope I gave you a little more perspective on the film, right? I'm gonna go check it out one more time, right? On that note, family, we out.